My name is Hazel Hill, and I'm here to talk about the Haudenosaunee Development Institute, better known as the HDI. The HDI was created by the Confederacy Chiefs Council after the reclamation of the lands at the former Douglas Creek Estates in Caledonia, now known as Gunestado. What the HDI does is it has created a process by which developers can come to the Confederacy to have their development proposals considered. It's also important to note that the Ontario government in 2006 has failed, or since 2006, has failed to provide developers with a process by which consultation and accommodation, the program that the Ministry of Aboriginal Affairs promotes, where the developers have a process by which they can engage with traditional people or band councils. From 2007, with the implementation of HDI, right up until 2010, the Confederacy went through a number of drafts and redrafts of creating policies that were to deal with development issues. Some of those policies include archaeology policies, environmental policies, energy policies, burial and repatriation policies. So they really took their time to look at the issues, to look at what was going on in the Ontario world of development, but it also took into consideration Haudenosaunee principles and values. And that was a very difficult task for them, to try and take something as real as inherent as our values and principles of who we are as Haudenosaunee people and put it into a written form that allows for policy making. But that's what they did. And so in 2010, thereabouts, the final versions of the Haudenosaunee Development Institute policies were created. From that, HDI has been mandated to deal with the developers. And so we've had an ongoing dialogue with a number of developers, including Samsung, including Capital Power. There's been the Nextera projects over in Haldimand County, smaller projects in and around not only the Haldimand Treaty Territory, but also within the 1701 Treaty Territory. One of the things that the Confederacy was successful at was getting the Ontario government to recognize that the Haudenosaunee territory is not exclusive to the Haldimand Tract. And I think it was 2 years ago, Minister Bentley, the then Minister of Aboriginal Affairs, came out and publicly declared that the 1701 treaty was recognized by the Ministry and by the Ontario government as a legitimate treaty. And so that really helped the Confederacy to advance its position with negotiations and engagement with developers. The HDI meets on a regular basis with Confederacy chiefs and clan mothers, as well as with developing proponents. So the process of the HDI is very simple. There's an application process for engagement. That process includes an application fee, and then developers are required to provide us with any kind of reports, whether it's environmental or archaeological reports, environmental review assessments that might have been done, as well as a history of the lands that they're going to be dealing with. And that process was designed specifically to help a lot of these developers to understand how a lot of the land areas that are being developed have never been ceded or surrendered by the Confederacy. And it's an educational process that helps them to realize, as they go through whatever municipality they're dealing with to research those lands, they end up at the stage where there's a Crown patent, but there's never any indication of how the lands left the Confederacy and were put into the Crown lands. And so it's kind of like an education process for the developer, and it helps to open the door for them to begin to understand the position of the Confederacy chiefs when we're dialoguing with them and going through the engagement process. The meetings with the developers are based on depending on the stage of development. After that meeting and after the initial review process takes place, then we'll have further meetings to allow for our monitoring programs to become effective and those kinds of things, depending on the stage that the Confederacy Council sees it as. All of the projects so far to date, most of them have been the new green energy projects, a lot of the windmill projects, a lot of the solars, and we've had a couple of other smaller ones that have engaging with, for instance, the city of Hamilton at the expansion of the St. Joseph's Hospital. We had to have an archaeological crew participate in that just because there were some areas of concern because of the vastness of our history in all these areas. And so it depends on the project itself, but for the most part, the development has a process that it goes through. And so the initial process of application to where it goes for a number of Confederacy Council meetings to advise our chiefs, to advise the the clan mothers, to advise the clan families, this is what's happening with the project, this is the concerns of the project, if there's any, and allow for our council to make decisions and allow us to take it back to the developer. One of the things that I'd like to really stress is that the HDI is not the decision-making body. We do make recommendations to Confederacy. We do have an input in the discussions at the meetings with the developers, but all of the decision-making that occurs as a result of any kind of anybody signing anything comes from our Chiefs Council. And I think that's something that our people need to understand. The process of the Confederacy is not simply to provide a number of community meetings, tell our people this is what we're going to do, but rather their process is to allow for our people to hear stage by stage what's happening with each development process or project. And then as the months go by and as HDI reports to council, you can see from the beginning where an application is made to where at the end when a decision is made. And sometimes that process takes about 3 years. And in those 3 years, what we witnessed with the First Solar as well as with Capital Power and Nextera, during that time, as we report to our Confederacy, the updates show each stage of development of that project. And so when people, I guess it's more about people that don't really understand the Confederacy process. We need to educate ourselves on what that means. And the involvement of our people and the clan families is the Confederacy is the only government that exists on this earth that has a participatory process, meaning our people are engaged. And if you're not engaged and participating at the Confederacy Council, then we encourage our clan mothers and chiefs at each of our updating meetings through the week to go back to their clans and talk to their clans and bring the feedback back to the next meeting. And so I think that's something that is very unique to the Confederacy, and I think that our people need to understand that more, because the process itself, it's been sort of set aside because of the Duncan Campbell Scott's attempts at eliminating the Confederacy, but it didn't go away. And so now, because it's being revitalized, our people are picking the Confederacy back up, more and more people are becoming involved, volunteers are becoming involved, the HDI is growing, the Confederacy has not only HDI, it has a number of departments that it has that are doing different things out there. They're governing. And I think that's the issue, that's the really core issue that people need to understand. And what this Table Talks here today is to help you to begin. We're going to be bringing those different issues to the table. We're going to talk about different things that are happening within Confederacy. We're going to revamp a whole new communications process. The Confederacy wants to hear from the people. They try to do, their decision making has always been based on what is it the people are saying, right? Even HDI. HDI came as a result of the people coming and saying, do something about development. Do something about development. And so what they recognized in 2006, not only was there a lack on Ontario's side to deal with development issues, but within our own side there needed to be something to deal with it, because our people were running all over the place. There was no consistency, there was no structure in place to deal with it. And like I said, it was really bombarding the Confederacy with issues when their day-to-day business wasn't able to be attended to. And the uniqueness of Confederacy and the processes that it put in place is the HDI has the ability to continue even when our council can't. So for example, last month when there was a death in one of our chiefs' families and the council was postponed until this next coming month, HDI continues. Our process continues. And after the small condolence, the chiefs and clan mothers, they come out, they participate, and we deal with the issues that normally would have been dealt with at council, but we expand on them and we create a more updated report, I guess, given that we had that little lapse in council reporting there. And so that it gives us time to reflect on it, look at it, and then perfect the report for the next upcoming council and update it. As part of our report to council in January 2014, what the HDI did is we hired a communications advisor to assist us in dealing with the issue of communication to our clan families. The Confederacy recognizes that people feel that they're not being told what's happening. They want more involvement, they want more engagement, and the Confederacy wants that engagement. And so what we've done is we've initiated a new communications strategy and we're implementing it. As part of that, we're working on a newsletter that's going to go out, and as well as revamping the whole website for the Confederacy, highlighting things such as HDI, but also the Haudenosaunee Wildlife Habitat Authority, the Haudenosaunee Documentation Committee, the other committees, other organizations that have been created by the Confederacy to deal with matters. And so we'll see that on that website different things. And as far as the HDI portion of it, we want to be able to provide more information on the status reports on development, agreements that have been signed, minutes of council, the HDI reports that have gone to council. So we really want to give as much information as we can to our people so that the citizens can give feedback back. We want to hear from you. We want to know what your thoughts are. We still have the Watts line that we would welcome your phone calls to. Any Haudenosaunee citizen that wants to come in and review any of the agreements that have been signed is welcome to come into the HDI office. And for that is unique to the Confederacy. Confederacy is really striving for transparency with its dealings with developers, and so it's always been an open door policy at the HDI. We've always been there to answer questions for anyone that wants to come in. We've put our financials up on the website, and we've had our audited reports up there this last year. Right now the auditors will be preparing to do an audited report of this past year's finances, and that will be posted when it becomes available. And so we've tried to really make sure that people can see what's happening with the money that comes into HDI. And I think at this point it's also important to point out that the monies that are currently being utilized by the HDI are the administration dollars that have come in through the administration fees that are charged as part of the engagement process. The only dollars that from the engagement process that were directed for use by the Confederacy Council was the dollars made from the first solar project. And if you recall, when we went to council, one of the things that we were looking at doing is initiating our archaeology monitoring program. And so the Confederacy authorized us to take those dollars, set them into building up this archaeology monitoring process. And from that point of having one person, one archaeology consultant begin the work, we've to this past year have gone from one archaeology monitor to having 20 out in the field at one time. And so to me that is demonstrating the Confederacy is really keen on ensuring that there's jobs that are, but it's not just about the jobs, because jobs are important and our people are capable of getting those jobs. But it's the involvement of Confederacy people on the land, ensuring that there's no violations and no compromises, I guess, to any development project. Prior to HDI's involvement in the monitoring and prior to the Confederacy creating the policies, nobody was really monitoring what was happening out there. And so you had incidences where burials would be found and they would be either moved or ignored. And so we've had a number of discussions where we've had to sit down with ministries to talk about some of their policies. Some of their policies are outdated. We want to really engage with ministries to look at how we as Haudenosaunee can help them to ensure that the policies that they have are also being upheld out there. And from the archaeology monitoring program, we've now initiated an environmental monitoring program and are currently training 12 individuals in environmental monitoring, but also making sure that they're understanding the Haudenosaunee policy part of it, and they will be also be prepared to be out there. And as that training program goes on right now, we also have, I believe, 6 current environmental monitors out there on the different projects, ensuring that that our environment is being protected, and the future, I guess, for our people. The future ecological footprint is being protected for the Haudenosaunee. I think one of the things that's unique to the Haudenosaunee monitoring program is that our monitors report directly to our chiefs and clan mothers through the HDI meetings, but also they're engaging with the other development, the monitors that are on site with the development proponent. And that engagement is critical at times where when for instance, this past weekend, one of the projects, we had an environmental concern that was missed by one of the monitors from the development proponent side, but it was caught by one of the HDI monitors. And so they got together, they looked at it, and they dealt with it in a very efficient manner. And so I think that it's important to know how our monitors are making a change, not only for the Confederacy and making sure our principles are being adhered to, but also for development as a whole, to make sure that there's more than, I don't know if the word watchdog, but it's like they're out there, they're making sure that those policies are being upheld, because it wasn't happening before.